You know, when we think about making our cities greener, our minds usually jump to those shiny, brand new, super energy efficient buildings. But here's the thing, the real challenge, and honestly, the biggest opportunity, is hiding in plain sight. It's the buildings that are already standing. We've got to retrofit them, but that whole process has its own massive hidden environmental problem. So let's get into it.
To really wrap your head around the scale of what we're up against, this statistic from the UN just says it all. Every single week, we build a new Paris. Just think about that. The pace is absolutely staggering, and it just devours a mind-boggling amount of raw materials.
So the logical answer seems pretty obvious, right? Let's pump the brakes on building new all the time and focus on what we've already got. And yeah, the data totally backs this up. Taking an existing building and retrofitting it instead of tearing it down can slash its total lifetime carbon emissions by up to 75%. I mean, that is a huge win for the climate.
Okay, but if retrofitting is such a clear slam dunk, why are we even talking about this? Well, here comes the twist. Because to actually meet our global climate targets, the sheer scale of retrofitting we need to do is almost unimaginable. And that creates a pretty serious paradox. And here is that problem in one single gigantic number. To get our existing buildings up to speed for net zero by 2050, we're going to need nearly 40 billion tons of materials. That is an astronomical amount of glass, steel, insulation, you name it. And it all has to come from somewhere. We're running the risk of solving one problem, a building's energy use, by creating another huge one, a massive, massive demand for new resources.
So how do we solve this puzzle? How do we retrofit our world without tearing it apart for new materials? Well, the answer is actually pretty elegant. It's all about circularity. It's about completely changing the way we think about the stuff our buildings are made of.
So what exactly is a circular retrofit? Look, it's not just about swapping out old windows for more energy-efficient ones. It's a total shift in philosophy. It means you look at an old building not as a pile of future garbage, but as a bank of valuable materials just waiting to be withdrawn and used again. The goal is super simple. Retain what you can, reuse what you take out, and recycle everything else.
And this slide just illustrates that shift in thinking perfectly. We're moving away from the brute force of a wrecking ball, demolition, which just creates a messy, useless pile of mixed-up waste, and we're moving toward the precision of disassembly. It's literally the difference between smashing a Lego model with a hammer and carefully taking it apart, piece by piece, so you can build something awesome and new with it.
In this image, this really gets to the heart of the choice we have to make. On one side, you've got materials that were carefully recovered from an old building. That's a valuable resource right there for the taking. And on the other, you've got brand new lumber which took energy, water, and land to produce. The circular approach is just common sense. Let's use what we've already got.
Now, this isn't just some feel-good environmental idea. This is a massive economic opportunity. We are talking about a multi-trillion-dollar shift in the entire global construction market.
I mean, just look at the growth projected on this chart. To hit our climate goals, the global retrofit market needs to absolutely explode. It's got to go from $500 billion today to nearly $4 trillion by 2050. That's not just growth, it's an incredible expansion, and it's all driven by the need to upgrade the buildings that are already here.
So, where's the hidden opportunity in all of that activity? It's right here. Right now, it's estimated that about half, 50%, of all the materials we pull out of buildings during a retrofit can be recirculated and reused. But that means the other half is still just getting thrown into a landfill. And closing that gap is where all the value is.
And that value is absolutely enormous. By 2050, if we really get this right, we could be diverting materials worth $600 billion from landfills every single year. Think about that. That's no longer just waste. It's a valuable commodity in a brand new circular supply chain.
And the climate impact is just as impressive. Recirculating all those materials could save 500 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent annually by 2050. That is a massive carbon saving. And we'd get there just by being smarter with the resources we've already taken out of the ground.
Of course, not everyone's starting from the same place. This table gives a really great global snapshot. You can see Europe is kind of leading the pack right now with solid policies and programs already in place. North America has some good incentives, but the whole structure is a bit inconsistent. And then you see other regions with just huge potential for growth as they start to build out this new kind of infrastructure. So the potential is crystal clear, but how do we actually make this a global reality? What's it going to take to get there? Well, luckily, there's a pretty clear blueprint for action. It really boils down to three key things. First, we have to start designing for disassembly. Think using screws instead of glue so buildings can be taken apart easily down the road. Second, we've got to build the actual infrastructure, the hubs, the networks, to handle all these recovered materials. And third, we need to create totally new markets, like digital platforms that can connect buyers and sellers of these secondary materials.
And this is what that second step actually looks like. This isn't just an abstract idea. We're talking about warehouses, logistics, sorting facilities, and take-back programs. This is the physical backbone, the nuts and bolts, that makes a circular economy for construction actually work at a huge scale. You know, ultimately, this all comes down to the legacy we want to leave behind. The choices we're making about our buildings and our cities today, well, they're going to define our world for decades, even centuries to come.
Our buildings are so much more than just structures. They're a physical manifestation of our priorities, of our values. They tell a story about what we care about: efficiency, beauty, community, and more, sustainability.
So, that leaves us with this final, really crucial question. In 2050, when we look around at our cities, are our buildings going to tell a story of a throwaway culture, or are they going to stand as monuments to a smarter, more resourceful, and a truly circular way of living? The blueprint is here. Now we just have to build it.